Chapter 6, Section 2, Renewable and Non-Renewable Resources. All right, key concept number 1, as you can see on your worksheet, is how are environmental resources classified? Okay, don't worry about filling this out right now. We'll come back to it. Today is the 15th. Okay, so how are environmental resources classified? Environmental goods and services may be classified as either renewable or non-renewable. Okay? Renewable resources can regenerate if they are alive or can be replenished by biochemical cycles if they are living. A tree is an example of a renewable resource because a new tree can be planted in a place of an old tree that dies or is cut down. A non-renewable resource is one that cannot be replenished by natural processes. Bless you. Fossil fuels such as oil, coal, and natural gas are non-renewable resources. Once these fuels are depleted, they are gone forever. The next key concept from our worksheet. What effects do human activities have on natural resources? Human activities can affect the quality and supply of renewable resources such as land, forests, fisheries, air, and fresh water. Hold on, we'll get back to it. We'll come back to it. All right, sustainable development. Sustainable development is a way of using natural resources without depleting them and of providing for human needs without causing long-term environmental harm. So, sustainable development. All right, so what this is saying is it's a way that we've come up with that we use natural resources, but we don't completely wipe them out. And we provide human needs without causing long-term environmental harm. Okay, sustainable development. That's probably one of your vocabulary words. That's fine. We'll come back to it. Land resources. Land provides space for human communities and the raw materials for industry. Land also includes soils in which crops are grown. If managed properly, soil is a renewable resource. Food crops grow best in fertile soil, a mixture of sand, clay, rock particles, and humus. All right, so humus is material from decayed organisms. All right, so the humus is what gives the nutrients in the soil to the plants to grow from. All right, soil erosion is the wearing away of surface soil by water and wind. Plowing the land removes the roots that hold the soil in place and therefore increases the rate of soil erosion. Desertification. All right, that's not desertification, it's desertification. If you look at the base word of it, the base word is desert. All right, so desertification is the process by which productive areas are turned into deserts. Okay, and this happens by overplowing, drought, things of that nature. I'm sure it's going to give us some more right here. It says desertification is caused by a combination of farming, overgrazing, and drought. A variety of sustainable development practices can prevent problems such as soil erosion and desertification. Sustainable development practices include, all right, so these are practices that we use to sustain the land and not turn it into a desert. Contour plowing. Fields are plowed across the slope of the land to reduce erosion. All right, and what that means, if it's a hillside, instead of plowing up and down like this, we plow across it. If we plow up and down a hill, if it rains, the ground we broke up, we've just created channels for the water to flow in, and when it flows downhill, it takes the topsoil with it. Okay, so that's contour plowing. Leaving stream stems and roots of the previous year's crop in place to help hold the soil. Okay, so that means after you harvest your crops, you don't come through and plow it up, plow the ground up. You leave the roots and stuff in it until next year. And then you turn it over and you plow it right before you plant again, so that once you plant, the plants that are growing that you just planted, their roots can hold the soil in place. Okay, so years ago they would harvest, and then they come through and plow the ground and just let it sit there plowed up. Well, wind, rain, different forms of erosion would come through and take off the topsoil.
What would they do with the bottom soil?
Well, topsoil is the part that stuff grows in. There's not really a bottom soil. It's just topsoil, and then it's like topsoils, clay, sand, bedrock, that sort. Topsoil is the nutrient-rich part that plants grow in, okay? And it's usually 6 to 10 inches deep. It says planting a field with rye rather than leaving it unprotected from erosion. And what that means is they would plant, after they harvest their crop. See, rye, if I'm not mistaken, grows year-round. You can plant rye at any time. So once they harvested their crop, they plow it up to turn it over, and then they plant rye in it to keep it from eroding. All right, now we're going to move into forest resources. It says the Earth's forests are an important resource for the products they provide and for the ecological functions they perform. Forests provide wood for products and fuel, remove carbon dioxide and produce oxygen, store nutrients, provide habitats and food for organisms, moderate the climate, limit soil erosion, protect freshwater supplies. Whether a forest can be considered a renewable resource depends plenty on the type of forest. Temperate forests of the Northeast are renewable because they have been logged and have grown back naturally. Old growth forests, such as those in Alaska and the Pacific Northwest, are non-renewable because it takes centuries to produce them. Deforestation. Deforestation is the loss of forest, or deforestation has several effects. All right? So when you take out forests of trees, it's called deforestation. One effect: erosion can wash away nutrients in the topsoil. Grazing or plowing can permanently change local soils and microclimates, which prevents the regrowth of trees. Forest management. Mature trees can be harvested selectively to promote the growth of younger trees and preserve the forest ecosystem. Tree geneticists are breeding new, faster-growing trees that produce high-quality wood. Now we're moving into fishery resources. All right, everybody know what fisheries are, right? That's where we grow and reproduce fish. So fish and other animals that live in water are a valuable source of food. Overfishing. Overfishing or harvesting fish faster than they can be replaced by reproduction has greatly reduced the amount of fish in parts of the world's oceans. Until recently, fisheries seemed to be a renewable resource, but overfishing has limited that resource. Okay? Sustainable development. The U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service has issued guidelines that specify how many fish and what size can be caught in various parts of the oceans. Okay, so what they're saying is, due to overfishing, once upon a time there was no rules. You could go get on your boat, go out in the ocean, catch whatever you wanted. Now there are rules on when you can catch what fish and how much of that fish you can catch to keep from, one, depleting the population of fish, and two, keeping the fish from going extinct. Okay? These regulations have helped fish populations recover. So, before they put in these rules, the fish populations were on the decline. But since the regulations have been put in, the fish populations are starting to recover. All right, so look at this chart right here. It says fish stocks in Georges Bank. All right, Georges Bank, that is off of one of the coasts. I can't remember. It's either the north or the east. It says fish stocks, thousands of metric tons. And you'll see in 1980, we were almost to here, right? So that's almost 100,000 or almost 100,000 metric tons of fish. By the year 2000, look how far we're down. We're halfway to 50, which means we're down 150,000 metric tons in 20 years. That is really using a lot of fish. Now, here's the same thing with haddock. All right, so in 1980, they fished it way down to here, but then they put the rules in effect. And now, since they put the rules in effect, you see the population's increasing, all right, which is good. Aquaculture. All right, aquaculture. The raising of aquatic animals for human consumption, which is called aquaculture, is also helping to sustain fish resources. The next thing is air resources. The condition of the air affects people's health. We all know that. Smog is a mixture of chemicals that occurs as a gray-brown haze in the atmosphere. Smog is caused by automobile exhaust and industrial emissions. And what that's talking about, industrial emissions, you ever drive by, how many of you guys ever go by the OMU plant out there on 60 and see the cloud coming out of smokestacks?
I've been on 60 in 2 years.
Right, but you've all seen smoke coming out of smokestacks, right? Well, some of that's clean and some of it's not so clean. And years ago, there was no rules, so they would do whatever and pump whatever into the air, and that's created smog. Smog is considered a pollutant because it threatens people's health. All right, a pollutant is a harmful material that can enter the biosphere through the land, air, or water. The burning of fossil fuels can release pollutants that cause smog and other problems in the atmosphere. Strict automobile emission standards and clean air regulations have improved air quality in many cities, but air pollution is still a problem. Many combustion processes release nitrogen and sulfur compounds into the atmosphere. These compounds combine with water vapor to form acid rain. All right, so you'll see the formation of acid rain. You have your industry, and they're pumping all these emissions in the atmosphere. You have your cars pumping in there. You have your ore mining, which is iron. And then you have your power plants, and all this goes into the air. All right, all these pollutants mix in the clouds, and then when it rains, the rain is acidic, which means it has a low pH, less than 7. We covered that last term. All right, see how it is? Emissions, chemical transformations, dry fallout, particulate gases, and then condensation. And then precipitation, acid rain, fog, snow, and mist. That's why you shouldn't eat snow whenever it's on the ground, because it could have acid rain in it. Acid rain kills plants by damaging their leaves and changing the chemistry of soils and standing water ecosystems. Acid rain may dissolve and release toxic elements such as mercury from the soil, freeing the elements to enter other portions of the biosphere. Freshwater resources. Americans use billions of liters of fresh water daily for everything from drinking and washing to watering crops and making steel. Although water is a renewable resource, the total supply of fresh water is limited and threatened by pollution. Sources of these water pollution include improperly discarded chemicals that enter streams and rivers, waste discarded on land that seep through soil and enter underground water supplies, domestic sewage containing compounds that encourage growth of algae and bacteria, sewage containing microorganisms that spread disease. Sustainable use of water. One way to ensure the sustainable use of water is to protect the natural systems involved in the water cycle that help purify water. These include wetlands, forests, other vegetation. Also, by conserving water in home, the industry, agriculture, we can look at conserving our clean water. Okay? So that's the section. The next slides are going to be the questions. Okay? So let's see if we can get through it. All right, so we're going to continue the section quiz. Which of the following is a non-renewable resource? Trees, grasses used by grazing animal, oxygen in the air, or fossil fuels? D. Correct. Good job. Next question. Which of the following is a sustainable use strategy that can help prevent desertification? Contour plowing, protecting wetlands, aquaculture, or selective harvesting of trees?
Can you place your doubt?
It's going to be A, contour plowing. The advantage of sustainable development is that A, provides for human needs without depleting natural resources, produces additional fossil fuels, protects wildlife from hunters and other threats, is a natural process. A mixture of chemicals that occurs as a haze in the atmosphere is known as smog. Good job. Plowing the land removes the roots that hold the soil in place, increase the rate of soil.